So first off, I just want you to know that it has been quite the challenge to develop a talk on a topic that is evolving as quickly as the one I'll be discussing today. It seems like every time I go to write a draft or come up with an idea, somebody, even right now as I'm speaking, somebody online is probably already saying it, or the technology has advanced to the point where what I'm saying is irrelevant. You see, at this moment in time in the art and design world, we are witnessing a massive disruption, and it is a disruption that is being powered by artificial intelligences and machine learning programs. Now, I'm sure whenever I say artificial intelligence, massive disruption, machine learning programs, images of a dystopian future come to mind with robotic overlords and everyone being tapped into the matrix. And thankfully, I don't anticipate that being our future. Well, for now. However, I am sure that the majority of you have either seen or read something that was developed by an artificial intelligence within the last couple of weeks and haven't even noticed it. And what's interesting about these technologies and their infiltration into our lives is that it is kind of in contradiction to what we were expecting. So maybe 5 to 10 years ago, when we first started to seriously discuss artificial intelligence in the workforce, we had anticipated that it would first affect the blue-collar jobs. Let's think semi-truck drivers being replaced by self-driving vehicles. And we had assumed that artificial intelligence would alleviate us from the laborious tasks of work and freeing us instead to pursue our artistic and creative endeavors. We had assumed that those artistic and creative endeavors required a human's touch to execute. However, all of those assumptions seem to be wrong because artificial intelligence is here now, and it turns out that it can paint. Not only can it paint, but it can paint well and in all kinds of styles. In actuality, all of the images that you've seen today and will see in the rest of this presentation were generated by an artificial intelligence. I used what is called an AI image generation program to generate these images. So what that means is I was able to type out in simple language into a program what I was hoping to see, and the program delivered all of these images. A direct example of which can be seen here, where we have a robot painting a picture of a landscape. And to receive this image, I simply typed out a robot painting a picture of a landscape. And it's kind of impressive. I mean, not only was it able to produce this compelling image, but it was able to do it within a matter of seconds. And you might be wondering, well, how exactly does all of this work? Well, I'm not an AI scientist, so I do apologize to any of the scientists in the room. But according to my understanding, it seems like the AI is capable of generating images in a similar way that humans are capable of creating images. So as an artist, I might be relying on my memory and inspirations to guide my creative works. When prompted, the AI is using its memories and inspirations, which we refer to as a data set, which is just a series of images that it was trained on. In most cases, this is billions of images. So I guess the big picture to take away from this is that the AI is not copying and pasting images and is instead generating images that previously hadn't existed. So as an artist, I'm not going to lie, when I first saw these programs and the images that they were capable of producing, I was definitely concerned. I was a little discouraged. Obviously, there's excitement with new technologies, but it did have me wondering what I would be doing in terms of the future in creating my own artworks. And what did all of this mean in terms of the years of time and dedication that I spent distinguishing myself as an artist? And at first, I really didn't even want to look at them. I mean, I didn't want to feed into the fascination and mass consumption of these images, and slowly but surely they began to infiltrate my own social media feeds. I had assumed that their trend online would be fleeting and trivial. However, after a little bit of consideration, I recognized what was going on, and I realized that the AI art train had already left the station. So I could either hop on and figure out how to implement these tools in my own process, or I could potentially be left behind, because it did seem as though this was a genie that we would not be able to fit back into the bottle. That being said, I did still have concerns not only about the technology, but my response to the technology. I mean, who am I to dictate what is and isn't a valid form of creativity and expression? And as an artist and an optimist, I did feel that art and creation are for everybody. So there's no need for me to necessarily be concerned and gatekeep these new technologies. And so I gave myself a moment to receive a chill pill and kind of relax and reassess the damage before diving in myself. And so I received access to some of these programs in their early beta forms over the summer, and I began generating images for myself. And I generated a lot of them. I mean, the speed and ease of use that these programs provide is incredible. And I found myself over the course of an evening maybe generating upwards of 150 images. I was combining interior design styles with ephemeral and poetic statements about existence, all while relaxing on my couch watching Netflix. I mean, this process was really becoming fun and kind of addicting. It was almost as addicting as scrolling endlessly on my phone. However, similarly to scrolling endlessly on my phone, these images did begin to lose their meaning rather quickly. And I began to wonder, I mean, what exactly is going on here? Sure, I am able to generate these images, but it never felt like I was really creating anything. Everything began to essentially feel like a flood of shallow compliments, and I began to wonder, is this really creating artwork, or is this just more of a distraction? More of a distraction in the form of endless image exposure. As you see, for essentially the entirety of human existence, at least to my knowledge, and the entirety of art and image creation, again, according to my knowledge, the process of creation has been a slow and rigorous process. It takes a lot of time and effort to hone your craft and become a master, or even just to distinguish your own style. And I think that whether we acknowledge it or not, it is that time and effort that really provides meaning to the artwork. It is that human connection and story that provides substance to the works that we are constantly consuming. I mean, I could type out an emotionally compelling statement into the AI, and I could receive an emotionally compelling image similar to this one. But upon further inspection, it does seem like something is kind of lost in all of that artificially generated noise. Now, all of that being said, I have been finding ways to utilize this technology into my own creative process. And I found that instead of laboring over my initial ideas and sketching them out by hand, I can instead utilize the AI to quickly iterate through some of those ideas and get to some of those aha moments much quicker. And I found that through utilizing this artificial intelligence, I'm expanding my knowledge of what's possible, or at least my thought process into what's possible, because previously I'm rather limited by my human brain and its understanding of reality, and now I can kind of push beyond those bounds. And I found that I can take some of these images and utilize them in ways that previously I wouldn't have had the patience for. An example of that can be seen on screen now. So these are images that I generated with the artificial intelligence and then ran them through a series of other programs that is taking you through the artwork right now. And sure, I could have developed this artwork without the assistance of artificial intelligence, but when I consider the pace and speed at which the world is currently moving and how all of us are now suffering from limited attention spans, I felt that in order to keep my artwork in front of an audience that's constantly on the move, utilizing the AI in this way was a useful effort. Now, all of this being said, there is a however. I mean, with me, there's always a but. And so I am still concerned about these technologies, even though I'm finding them fascinating and useful. I do have concerns about what happens in the future when these tools become effective enough at replicating what we are wishing them to show us, and when they eventually become more accurate in their expression of our own wishes. When do they stop being tools and start being replacements for certain segments of the art and design industry, particularly those entry-level art and design positions? Or what happens when we continue to be exposed to endless novel imagery? I mean, I know for myself, when I'm scrolling on my phone, I'm not necessarily paying attention to the images that I'm looking at, even though I know that these images probably took artists and designers 50 plus hours to generate or create. I'm still just quickly flicking my finger and moving past them. And how does this new resource of endless image generation affect that? Or what happens when we find ourselves in a position where the AI is no longer needing to be prompted by a human and is instead prompted by another AI? And maybe that AI is prompted by an algorithm that has the financial incentives of some large corporation behind it. And we are suddenly fed media and imagery that is confirming our own biases because it's built specifically for us. I don't necessarily know if that is our future, but just judging by how we've not been able to get a grasp on certain technologies that we already use daily, it is a concern that I have. And I also just want us to kind of recognize that we have been slowly and subtly removing meaning from not only our lives and interactions, but again, the imagery and the artwork that we digest. And as I wrap up for today, I just want us to kind of remember that when you start utilizing these tools or they start infiltrating your life, to recognize them as tools. They are not necessarily replacements for your own thoughts or creativity or your own process. And that we need to remember that it is the human connectivity and that human interaction that really provides us with meaning. Because we never seem to truly come out satisfied when we replace that human interaction with the simulated interactions on our screens. And I don't imagine that the outcome would be much different when we replace the humanity and that interconnectivity with our artwork with algorithms and artificial intelligences. Thanks.